With Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 14, the trial of Boruto Uzumaki has begun, and as you would expect, things that get extremely heated very quickly because for the first time in 3 years, Konoha finally has this golden opportunity of a lifetime to get revenge for the death of Naruto Uzumaki, the hero of the 4th Great Ninja War and the savior of the ninja world multiple times over. But as all good Naruto fans know, a ninja, they must see through deception, and this chapter, it does a really good job of reminding the characters in universe of this core lesson, as it does by pulling out the rug from underneath us as readers by revealing that the Sand Village has been attacked and at least 2 known casualties are at the hands of Matsuri have been confirmed. Jura, the 5th Kazekage, and his adopted son Shinki, who has now been turned into an awakened Shinju. We open up the chapter with Boruto slowly regaining consciousness, and he's greeted by a familiar face in the form of Konohamaru, which under normal circumstances, that would be fine, given that Konohamaru was like a play uncle or a play big brother to Boruto for his childhood before he became his sensei. But now with omnipotence changing the lives of Boruto and Kawaki, this familiar face is the face of someone who wants to see Boruto dead, and he's not alone. The torture specialist himself, Ibiki Morino, is in the room and he's waiting for this opportunity to get his hands on Boruto. Upon realizing the dire situation he finds himself in, Boruto attempts to use the hand seal for the flying Raijin Jutsu, but Konohamaru tells him, hey fam, that's pointless. Those handcuffs, they won't allow Boruto to mold chakra and they cannot be physically broken. Now, as the audience, this is information that we have, but it's dramatic irony in effect because we have to remember that Boruto doesn't know this due to the fact that in the last chapter, he was struggling to stay conscious when Konohamaru was telling him how the cuffs work as he was putting them on him. Hence, he's repeating the information. The inability to mold chakra not only prevents Boruto from using any type of ninjutsu, but it also prevents him from molding chakra. So he can't even use chakra to amp his physical strength to break free of the handcuffs. Any Shinjutsu that say he might know, he's in the same boat there. He can't use chakra. As he is right now, he's only got his God-given strength, and as Konohamaru tells him, if he tries anything, those cuffs, they are set to damage his arm. So in short, Boruto has been trapped. Upon seeing he's out of options, Boruto asks for an update on Himawari and his former classmates slash friends now turned enemies, which is quite remarkable when you think about it. Even being this deep into enemy territory and facing certain execution, Boruto is still concerned about the well-being of the very people who wanted to kill him due to the effects of omnipotence, which is a sign that despite everything he's been through the last few years, the heart of that kind-hearted young boy that Naruto and Hinata raised is still there inside of him, proving every bit that he is indeed Naruto's child, since only Naruto and Hinata's child would find it in themselves to be thinking about others when they're in a situation like this. Konohamaru coldly moves forward with the interrogation, telling Boruto that while enemies might have retreated, he still wants answers as to why Sarada and Himawari and the Ina Shikacho trio were all being hunted down. If it isn't obvious by now, Konohamaru's mind, in spite of seeing everything that he did from Boruto using the Rasengan and flying Raijin to his continued concern for his friends, his mind is still under the influences of omnipotence, which as we'll see in a few moments, it is no knock on Konohamaru. It's more of a testament to how overpowered that ability is, which should make you applaud people like Amado and to a lesser degree Shikamaru and Sasuke, given that we now know how strong omnipotence is and how hard they have to work to suppress the effects. Meanwhile, back inside of Konoha Hospital, Sakura, she has her work cut out for her by tending to Inojin's wounds, and while he has been physically healed by Himawari, he's not quite out the woods yet because he's still unconscious, and the reason he's unconscious is his chakra pathway system, it has been affected by Jura's attack, which those are the tenketsu that are in every part of your body, which allows chakra to flow to your organs, so things like your heart and your lungs, areas that Jura damaged when he attacked Inojin a few chapters back. While Himawari, using the Nine-Tails chakra, was able to heal him physically, she has a long way to go in terms of her healing, with Sakura needing to realign the proper flow to his chakra pathway system, which that is crazy, just given the level of skill needed for something like that. Konoha has always had some of the best medics in the ninja world, but in Naruto Part 1, when Neji nearly killed Hinata, it took her months in the manga timeline to recover. She wasn't back to 100% until after the events of the Sasuke retrieval mission and right before the end of that short 3-month mini time skip where Naruto finally left to go train with Jiraiya for the next 2.5 years. The fact that nobody, including the Hyuga clan back then could fix her up, but Sakura can. It just speaks volumes to how far her medical ninjutsu has advanced. Watching all of this is going to be Ino, and for a moment, your heart, it really has to go out to Ino right here. It's been a rough 19 years for her. She lost her sensei 19 years ago to Hidana the Akatsuki. She lost her father to a Ten Tails Bijudama. Now she's almost lost her only child to a humanoid version of the Ten Tails. For her, this entire situation has her in a tricky spot. The decisions she makes to assist or not assist Shikamaru, they have real implications. She can't just make decisions based on how they affect her, but they also affect her child as well. And as we'll see, that plays a role in her thought process. Back in the interrogation room, things are heating up as the two elders and Amado watch Boruto's interrogation closely as Shikamaru presses him for answers on the most important questions regarding the Shinju and why they are targeting the people that they are. But as this is going on, we're in the process of Kawaki making his newest major big mistake since Boruto has arrived back on the scene. While he's sitting with Ada and Damon, with the former using her Simigan to tell them about Boruto's interrogation, Kawaki is suffering at the hands of Damon, who's being the little troll that he is. And he's taken the moment to push all of Kawaki's buttons. He's basically smiling at Kawaki and says, what are you going to do if Boruto snitches? If Boruto starts spilling tea, things get pretty bad for you. And when he gets no response out of Kawaki, Damon just pushes the situation even further by both reminding Kawaki and us as the audience of something that tends to get overlooked by quite a few people in the fandom. So, omnipotence. Back when it was casted, it only swapped the memories that people had of Boruto and Kawaki. That is a fact. Undisputable. However, what is also an undisputable fact is that Kawaki's lie about Boruto killing Naruto and Hinata, it has no bearing on omnipotence. The reason being is that Kawaki told a lie about Boruto killing Naruto after omnipotence was casted, when he grabbed Ada by the shirt and made her tell the lie, speaking the unspoken threat to have her go along with his plan, otherwise she will suffer. And because of that, if Boruto were to tell people the truth, omnipotence won't save Kawaki here. They'll be able to comprehend that information without the effects of omnipotence directly pushing against it. This leads to Ada cutting in like she did in chapter 6 when Damon was pushing Kawaki on the same issue, because she knows her younger brother Damon very well. Damon is that kid who, when he knows that he's hit a sore spot on you, he's just going to keep pushing at it until he gets a reaction out of you. And so she tries to run interference here, but Kawaki finally gives in and he doubles down on his confidence by saying that none of this changes anything, and from a coldly logical perspective, he isn't wrong to take this stance. Sure, the lie about Naruto being killed by Boruto, it was done after the fact. But it does not change that due to omnipotence, everyone believes that he is Naruto's son and that it is not Boruto. So if it comes down to who you're going to believe, Kawaki or Boruto, if you're somebody in Konoha, you're going to believe the guy you think is Naruto's son, which would be Kawaki. It's cold and it's cruel and it's calculated, but given how far down this path that Kawaki is, it's his only choice here. He has to double down on this stance, which is why Damon is taking the enjoyment that he is. Kawaki then gives us another reminder as an audience, which is the fact that Kawaki still believes that Boruto is a threat due to the fact that Momoshiki can still hijack his body. It's for that reason Kawaki feels so confident, because he knows whenever the moment presents itself to him, Momoshiki is going to take control of Boruto's body for however long he can. And he's basically saying without saying, once that happens and Boruto shows that he is a monster, he's going to kill the guy. And when that happens, he's more than content with dying. This, of course, goes back to Kawaki's last words to Naruto when he sealed him away, which is that he didn't expect Naruto to understand why he was doing what he's doing. But if after he kills Boruto and he unseals Naruto, if Naruto wants to kill him out of revenge, then he wouldn't fight back. And each time in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, when Kawaki has spoken about going away, it's always been with this as the information he's referring to. He's content with dying for his sins when this is all over. And that leads to Ada having a worried look on her face, because she knows exactly what Kawaki's saying, which is something that we have to keep our eyes on, because the last time she got desperate for Kawaki, it caused omnipotence to happen. So if there's a risk on this level, then you got to believe that Ada is going to be a wild card later on. However, this is also where he made his mistake. The whole time this is going on, Mitsuki appears, keyword appears, to have been listening in the entire time as he's looking out in the direction of the interrogation room. Though it's not shown right now, you have to believe he is replaying the words of Boruto that he spoke to them at the end of their battle about Boruto being Mitsuki's son and not Kawaki. As we'll see in a bit, there's evidence that supports this being the case. Meanwhile, Boruto has brought Konohamaru up to speed on how the awakened Shinju are created, which is by eating the people who are trapped in the trees, and he lays out the identities of those who have been bitten and their Shinju counterparts. And the look on Konohamaru's face when he says that Moegi is Matsuri and that she's after him, it is telling. He knows deep down in his soul that he's in hot water, and somewhere in ninja heaven, Asuma and Hiruzen, they're debating should they clear out a seat at their dinner table for Konohamaru. This leads to Amado weighing in and explaining why this new development is so dangerous and should not be underestimated, because in the past, the Ten Tails had operated solely off of pure instinct. Its primary mission was to seek out chakra after it ate Otsutsuki and to harvest the chakra fruit by destroying all life on the planet. And we saw that take place in Naruto's 4th Great Ninja War. Once the Ten Tails was ready to go, it quickly began seeking out all living things to begin its harvest. Yet, due to the fact that these Shinju are now operating off of logic instead of instinct, it makes them several times more dangerous because they're less predictable and they continue to grow as they gain new experiences. Boruto confirms Amado's words by saying not only is this the case, but Jura, the leader of the Ten Tails army, is the one who is the mastermind behind all of this, and Boruto confirms why Jura is as dangerous as he is. Unlike the others like Hidari, who was made from Sasuke's chakra, or Mamushi, who was made from Bug's chakra, or Matsuri, who was made from Moegi's chakra, Jura was not made from any human being. He is the Ten Tails itself. And now we see why Boruto was so desperate in chapter 4 to destroy the Ten Tails' main body before anything else. The reason being is that Jura, as he puts it, is on a whole different level than any of them can compete with. He is the source of their fear for human extinction. He is the apex predator. And Boruto wisely tells Konoha for this reason, they cannot afford to execute him. Boruto right now, he's trying to wisely use leverage to say that he is the only one who can defeat Jura, which means using 10 directions, Kashin Koji has prepared Boruto for this monumental task, or he is in the process of doing so. Yet this move, it is smart, but it also backfires. Upon hearing Boruto's words, the two elders, both of whom they're in their 90s now, they narrow their eyes as Boruto refuses to name Kashin Koji as the one telling him this information, and Amado's troubled expression is enough for us to know he's already likely figured out his Koji, since he's the one who gave him Shibai's DNA. He would know about 10 directions. Boruto sticks to the cards he has, being every bit the sarcastic smartass that we know him to be, by saying he has all the information that they need, which is basically why they can't kill him, even if they think he's lying right now. Yet the two elders, they show us that archaic dinosaur mentality that existed back when the third Hokage would go down in history as the Hokage and aggressor who started the second and the third ninja war. They are war hawks. Even though the third Hokage mellowed out in his old age, these two are every bit as still the same people who wanted to smoke as they were almost 100 years ago. They tell Boruto, you're in no position to bargain, and if he doesn't watch himself and answer accordingly, they're going to have Boruto suffer and make sure that he suffers as he dies, and that Boruto's not going to walk out that room alive no matter what information he has. They cut right to the chase and they tell Boruto, why did you kill Naruto? Answer the question. And this is where Boruto shows that he's a real one. He flat out says he didn't kill Naruto or Hinata. He says they're both alive and safe. However, he refuses to tell them what happened, how he knows that they're safe, and the context, which we as readers know. He's basically refusing to snitch on Kawaki. And the build up towards this, we see Shikamaru and he's struggling heavily with the effects of omnipotence, and we see firsthand how much of a struggle it is for the people who are under the effects of that Shinjutsu. We saw glimpses of it in Boruto Naruto Next Generation's chapter 80, where Sasuke, even after seeing the scar on Boruto's eye and sensing Momoshiki's chakra, seeing his headband that should be in Kawaki's possession, and even hearing Ada explain to his face what happened, Sasuke was still struggling with omnipotence, saying things like he feels a force that's telling him to ignore all the problems he sees, and saying very cautiously at the end of the chapter, if you are truly Naruto's son, showing that he still had his doubts despite all of that. However, right here and now, we see exactly what Sasuke was struggling with through Shikamaru's perspective. So Shikamaru can't even think the words omnipotence under this context, and he is struggling to remember this conversation with Boruto and Boruto's words for him to trust him. Even after he plays back the words in his mind, struggling while doing so, omnipotence, it makes him forget it, and he has to forcibly make himself recall everything and believe Boruto's words, even as omnipotence is telling him to look past everything that Boruto told him about Kawaki using omnipotence. This just makes you look back at Sasuke, who watched over Boruto while he was asleep, and realized with a hand on his sword the thoughts that likely crossed Sasuke's mind, that this kid is not Naruto's son, and he has to forcibly fight off his memories that he had of hunting down Boruto with killing intent, which we know he was really hunting down Kawaki, and it's all because he chose to trust in his daughter. He didn't act on those impulses. For a whole year, every waking moment, Sasuke had to struggle with this. It hasn't even been a full day yet, and Shikamaru is already having trouble, which, my friends, is exactly why omnipotence, it is overpowered. As Boruto claims, he didn't kill anyone, and Shikamaru refuses to allow Naruto's son to die here in this very moment. Not like this. We see the wheels, they're getting put into motion by Shikamaru here. He's already using that big brain of his to come up with ways to get Boruto out the jam that he's in, all while the elders and Konohamaru and Ibiki begin ramping up the pressure of their interrogation, with Damon just stunned that Boruto didn't turn snitch, and Ibiki is getting ready to begin torturing Boruto. While all this is going on, Shikamaru, he's reaching out to Ino, and after he checks in on Inoji, he basically cuts to the chase and he says, hey, I need you to go ahead and link me up with Boruto. This leads to a very tense conversation where Ino flat out asks Shikamaru, are you ordering me as Hokage to do this? When Shikamaru says he's asking as a friend, but he reminds her this is a top secret mission, Ino's placed on the battlefield. It becomes clear she's not Team Boruto. She says everything that they're doing is flat out forbidden, and that Shikamaru has already crossed way too many lines, and she flat out states that she doesn't trust Boruto at all. She doesn't understand how Shikamaru can believe this story so easily. And if you go back to when she was listening to Boruto tell the story, she flat out calls it a wild theory. It's as Shikamaru is begging her as her friend, as her comrade, that we see what plays a role in her making her final decision. She's looking down at her son before she answers. She's not going to assist Shikamaru in something this risky, this dangerous, this illogical, where she's being told her memory's been tampered with, and she's not going to assist any further in something that could ruin her son's life. If she is wrong, she knows that her son could be punished by the shame that comes from his mother helping the killer of the 7th Hokage. As the head of the Yamanaka clan, she would bring shame upon her clan the same way Itachi brought shame upon the Uchiha by massacring it. The Yamanaka clan is the very clan her son will one day be the heir to and the leader of. And as we discussed in the Why You're Wrong About Restoring the Uchiha Clan video, family honor and clan honor, they are everything in Japanese culture. Ino promptly cuts off the communication with Shikamaru, leaving Boruto to get pummeled by Ibiki, who is slamming his face into the desk. And somewhere Kawaki has got to be feeling in the mud right now. That desk, it did more damage to Boruto than Kawaki's done in the last 14 chapters, unless you want to whip out the calculators and start power scaling and say that that desk clearly has durability levels that are 7 septillion times stronger than Kawaki. Whatever numbers you want to do, fam. That's all on y'all. However, none of Ibiki's threats, they're working on Boruto, who endures this whole thing. And when Ibiki says that he's waiting 3 years to punch Boruto in the face, we get this sarcastic line by Boruto that if this is what the last 3 years have been like for Ibiki, then the last 3 years must have really sucked to only be thinking about punching Boruto in the face. However, it's also a reflection of Boruto's mental state of mind as well. For him, the last 3 years, they haven't been all sunshine and rainbows for Ibiki, who had the equivalent of the first world problems that you and I have, where say we're watching something on TV and the internet is buffering when we're streaming, say Boruto's anime, or there are ads popping up on a YouTube video and we gotta hit 5 seconds to hit skip and go back to the video. Ibiki had the luxury of waiting 3 years, thinking of ways that he wanted to torture Boruto, which that that is a first world problem compared to Boruto. 3 years ago, he was chased out of the only village he'd ever called home. Nobody remembered him as the second coming of the fourth Hokage, his grandfather. They viewed him as a traitor for killing Naruto and Hinata and for trying to kill their son Kawaki a second time. He was being hunted down by Anbu Black Ops across the entire ninja world. He was being hunted down by Code and his Ten Tails army. That same army, led by Code, eventually took down his master Sasuke. He spent the entire time aware of the extremely slim chances he had to stop Jura, knowing that if he failed, the entire world would be destroyed. For Boruto, when he says he envies Ibiki, this is what he truly means. Compared to what Boruto's gone through, Ibiki really hasn't gone through much of anything. As Ibiki continues to torture Boruto, Shikamaru calls for it to end, and he demands that Mitsuki be brought in to use poison, and this, my friends, is where Shikamaru has begun the break glass in case of emergency plan, now that Ino is refusing to help Shikamaru. Watching all of this is Ada with her Senrigan, and that side profile that she's drawn with makes it clear she's suspicious of what she's seeing, but she's letting the whole scene play out while she brings Kawaki up to speed. Meanwhile, as Mitsuki begins to enter the room, Shikamaru grabs his hand and reminds him that as shinobi, they can't afford to let their emotions get in the way. Our first sign that something is about to happen off screen, or rather it did happen off screen. Konohamaru warns Mitsuki he's got to be gentle with Boruto. He's got to treat Boruto the way that Diddy treated Meek Mill. If you know, you know, allegedly. Because Boruto has the information that they need, and as Mitsuki composes himself while looking at a bloodied and beaten Boruto, Boruto cracks that sarcastic smile of his and asks if Mitsuki is still looking for his son, and this appears to naked eye to set Mitsuki all the way off, because again, remember, a ninja must see through deception. He immediately powers up into Sage mode, and he has his aura flaring up. He speed blitzes Boruto. He slams him into the wall. He's talking trash to him. Everyone thinks that Mitsuki's about to kill Boruto, which is exactly what he wants you to think, when in reality, he's using his snakes to enter the combination on the electronic keypad to release Boruto's handcuffs, and he tells Boruto where to find his equipment. This leads to Boruto quickly weaving the hand signs for the flying Raijin, but not without telling everyone listening that he doesn't view them as enemies, and he will still provide them with information, but whether or not they use the information he gives, he's going to leave that up to them. Basically, Boruto flexed and said, "You need me, I know you need me, I'm getting the hell out of here." In the blink of an eye, Boruto, he's recovered his sword, he's gotten his cloak back, which were marked by the flying Raijin Jutsu sealing marker, and he has quick words with the shinobi before he teleports out the room. It's then that we learn that Mitsuki has told Konohamaru this is all part of Shikamaru's orders, and the elders, they are not happy because this was their once-in-a-lifetime chance to kill Boruto, and they warned Shikamaru that the feudal lord of the Land of Fire, Madoka Ikkyo, who is Naruto's close friend and the father of Tento, the boy who Boruto saved back in the Mujina Bandits arc, the feudal lord of the Land of Fire, who pays all the bills that allows for Konoha to operate, he's not going to take too kindly to this new development of letting Naruto's killer escape, and it's going to result in Shikamaru being put on trial, Hokage or not. However, Shikamaru is unfazed by all of this, and he's back in the Hokage office sometime later. He's smoking in the Hokage office, and as Sarada storms in and begins asking questions about Boruto's interrogation and whereabouts, Shikamaru simply says he escaped, but before he can go into any further into detail, we get a bombshell. Kankuro has been patched through by Shikamaru by what appears to be Ino, despite him being all the way back in the Land of Wind, which is insane range for Ino's mind transmission jutsu, which she uses to speak to people. But Kankuro reveals that they were attacked in the Sand Village and that Gaara has been injured as a result, and Shinki being bitten by the claw grimes and turned into a tree. This, of course, transitions us over to the Ten Tails dimension as Kankuro's asking Konoha for backup, likely acting as his sitting Kazekage, depending on Gaara's position and condition at this point in the story. And we see the Ten Tails version of Shinki, who's now named Ryu, being created and welcomed by Jura, Matsuri, Mamushi, and Hidari, which means their numbers have now grown, and if Ryu is like any of the others, he can use Shiki's jutsu, which means we now have a Shinju with the Iron Sand, which that's going to be very tricky if that's the case, given Sasuke's Ten Tails clone didn't have the Sharingan, which is why I always believe Kekkei Genkai weren't transferred. So that's something we have to keep our eyes on moving forward. Jura's army, it is growing, just as Kashi and Koji declared and warned Boruto. And with this, we have what I personally deem the ending of the second arc of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, the first arc being the first 4 chapters, which I personally call Boruto's Return arc, and that's based off of the theme of those chapters. Arc 2 being chapters 5 through 14, which I am dubbing that the Shinju Awakening arc, also based on the main theme and plot point. And with the story now heading into what appears to be another flashback at the start of the next chapter, it does seem like this is where the arc is ending off right now, that the stakes have been raised at this point, which doesn't have to be the end of your time here on Naruto Explained. So click here on the right for more Naruto and Boruto content, or click here on the left for content from my Anime Explained channel, where we talk about everything except Naruto and Boruto.